but brand identity has so many layers that I think people underestimate. One of the biggest things that I was like owning on, and I still own on to this day, like brand identity is not only your logo. Brand identity is not just your logo.
You're tuned in to the Event Gems podcast, the podcast where coaches, consultants, and speakers learn how to produce transformational and profitable events. I'm your host, Natasha Wright, Chief Experience Curator at the Diamond Butterfly. Join me and other industry experts as we teach you how to maximize the power of your next brand building event. Time to drop those gems. Let's fly. Hey, Trailblazers. Welcome to another episode of Event Gems. Today, I am super excited to bring you a branding consultant. Her name is Kiana Powell. Kiana is a trusted brand consultant and owner of Forward PR, which is a full-service branding agency specializing in helping women entrepreneurs in health and wellness, hospitality and tourism, and special events industry increase their brand exposure and confidently position themselves as experts. So, without further ado, let's welcome Kiana to the Event Gems podcast, y'all.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Natasha. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me and being here today. I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you for inviting me.
As you guys know, we're going to kick it off with Insight Gems. So we're going to get a chance to know Kiana a little bit more, just little tidbits about her, see what are some of her preferences. So Kiana, are you ready?
I think I am. Let's go.
All right. We're going to get right into it. All right. Is it morning or nights? Like, which one do you prefer?
Nights.
Share your food or don't share your food?
I share my food. I don't mind.
Oh, okay. Your husband must love you then. Shopping online or shopping in the store?
In the store.
Okay. Oh, wow. That surprised me. Okay. Plans.
Really?
Yeah. Plans or surprises?
Although I like to say surprises, plans.
Me too. I'm like, don't surprise me. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Funny enough, as I get older, I feel like I'm in the middle, but I'll say extrovert.
Like an introverted extrovert. Yeah, that's how I think of myself too. Yeah, for sure. And do you think it's better to have education or experience? Or which one do you prefer, education or experience?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I'm going to always go back to the foundation of education. I think education is always fundamental.
Yeah. And then from there, you could build the experience. Yeah. Love it. All right. So I hope you guys got a chance to see what Kiana likes. So next time, if you bring her to a restaurant or you take her to lunch, just know that she'll share her food. So you don't have to worry about it. All right. So let's get into the conversation and learn all about branding, what it is that you do. So Kiana, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business and the services that you provide?
Yes. So I'm so excited to share that I actually missed my anniversary for business, but we actually 6 years in. The agency is called Forward PR, and I've been in the industry since 2015. And thus far, I've been able to work with many industries, not just the ones that we named about hospitality and tourism, but also with different municipalities and government, lawyers, with banking, festivals. I've had that experience, but I also have to go back to the educational part, which I received my bachelor's in public relations from Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. So with the agency, which we started in 2017, I've been able to grow in so many areas, not just personally, but also professionally. And then now with the agency, we have grown where we have staff, which I pride myself on because our staff is comprised of phenomenal women. I make sure that I hire and give opportunities to women because I feel like sometimes we miss those opportunities because of life or, self-doubt, or just, sometimes it's male dominated. So for PR right now, we are specializing in helping entrepreneurs who are in the health and wellness, in hospitality, in the restaurant industry, and special events. We definitely did a pivot after the pandemic where we not only we're an agency that was doing face to face, business to business work, but we also are now a digital agency as well, where we are able to provide different workshops. We have different products, different workbooks. So it's been a great adventure thus far in these 6 years in business.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So congratulations on your business anniversary. I felt like I had a business milestone and anniversary. Well, not I felt like I did have a business milestone or anniversary in December. And I had all intention of doing something, you know?
Something, right? Something
Yeah.
on Instagram. Congratulations to you though, but
Yes.
it
Thank
didn't
you.
happen.
Yeah, it did not happen. I was like, all right, so I think maybe I'm gonna do like a IG live and just have some balloons and just talk about the journey. So
Candle in the mouth and what everybody's been doing. No, yeah,
yeah, yeah, it,
Instagram
it,
has
it
to
just
show
didn't
me.
happen. I was just like, congratulations to me.
Yes, congratulations. We're celebrating right now, you guys. We have a party
Exactly.
going on.
Yeah, yeah. So I celebrated. This was, and I didn't even realize this. Like in my
Mhm.
mind, I kept thinking, oh, this was my third year. December of 2022 was my second year. Well, third, yeah, year as a full-time business owner. And so, I went through the whole pandemic and
Yes.
everything, especially being in events. And so I really wanted to do something to celebrate myself, celebrate my business and my journey. But yeah, so yeah, I get it, girl. But
We
congratulations
went
on
through
6 year
it.
going strong. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I love it. So you said that you ended up pivoting during COVID and the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us, we had to pivot in some way. So what really inspired that pivot? That move that you did.
You know what? The inspiration was being forced to think about how am I going to be able to move forward? How am I about to survive? At that time, the pandemic, I had a 1-year old son. He was just turning one. Like we just celebrated his birthday. And then a couple of weeks later, that's when we discovered that the pandemic was happening. So the inspiration was just kind of survival. But I'm so thankful for it because in all honesty, I went back to my passion. I went back to something that I
Mm,
truly wanted to go and do 100%. And
mhm.
I didn't do it because financially, events was paying the money or different industries was paying the money. And when everything stopped, and Natasha, I think we have this in common. My my fourth event called me. That was the fourth client. They were like,
Yeah,
it's canceled. We don't know when it's coming back. And
exactly.
I was like, wait, because my year was already set.
Mhm.
So from a festival, from a community, another community festival, to a workshop, and to empowerment breakfast, all of those being canceled, I'm getting phone call after phone call after phone call. What do I do? So going back to the inspiration, when I sat down, I had to go to my parents' house and I just sat on their couch and I was just like, okay, what can I do? Because I needed to focus. And I was like, branding. That is your passion, no matter
Yeah.
what you do. Because prior to the shift, which I don't think I was very clear about that, the pivot in my business was I was 100% PR. That's my
Okay.
background. I was 100% publicity, getting event promotion and event marketing. So no matter what I was doing in event marketing, I always had to go back to the client to be like, what's going on with the branding? What's going on with your logo? What's going on? So, I was always digging deep in that area when I was supposed to just make sure there was
But you're like, wait a minute, these things all work together.
it's not going and it's not helping me be great. And
Yeah.
so when everything stopped, I'm like, I'm going back to this and I'm going to go 100%. And when I made that pivot, that was what my business needed. I made the most money from that pivot and
Mm,
thus far. And it went back to passion, because I
mhm.
think sometimes we get caught up in the paycheck when it's like, you know what, I really don't like this, or I really don't want to work with this person, but they're paying the bills. And you can hear all of these empowerment summits. They tell you don't get stuck on the paycheck. It's okay. But at the end of the day, when bills are getting paid, you just got to do what you got to do sometimes. And
Facts.
so when the
Mhm,
pandemic hit, it was like, okay, well, you have nothing. You have nothing. Okay.
mhm.
Invoices are not getting paid next month. So what are you about to do? And going back to the passion and the educational part, because you learn that in PR, I was able to help so many people. It was just beautiful. Like I could cry. And I'm thankful that I did that pivot because I'm satisfied right now. I'm more than satisfied right now. to be honest.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And, so Kiana lives here in South Florida with me. And, I've worked with Kiana on projects before as well. And I definitely saw the shift on your social once you started to really lean into Brandon and ramp it up. I was like, oh my God, she is killing it right now. It was just like a whole new version of you. I felt like, at least from a social media perspective and the way that you were marketing your business, it was a whole new way that you were doing things. And I thought it was fun. And I thought it was, like very aligned with who you are, like who I know you to be in person. You know what I mean? Like your social media game, like really stepped up, and it was just funny. And she was doing like some cool reels but informational funny reels, so I
I had
thought that
to
that was
focus.
really
I
cool.
was like, okay, I can't post the kids anymore. I need to educate. I need to let
Hmm.
them know where to place me, because Natasha, nobody knew what I did. That was the problem. And that's why
I
I
feel like
hope
that was the
every
same with
other
me.
entrepreneur, you know what I mean? They don't know what we do all the time. They're
Mhm.
like, I thought you worked for this city. I thought you did this. I thought you worked for this. And I'm like, they were clients. They didn't even know that I had a business. Like, that's
Wow.
contracted work. I'm not an employee. Those were
Yeah.
contracts, you know? And I had to step back and realize, one, I say, Natasha, the pandemic made me step out of other people's shadows, and not in a bad way. I just felt like I got comfortable being the second person,
Behind
or
the
just
scenes.
behind the scenes. That's
Mhm.
in PR. That's what you do. You don't need to know who put out the press release. Just know that it was out and we secured media. And I had to make myself the client at that time, and get in front and own up and let people know, this is how I can help you. I had to go out and get my own clients. That was something that wasn't happening before. I was usually contracted with big groups, and this time around,
Mhm.
everybody in that big group was trying to figure out how they were going to survive. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
It felt like in a way, and it was kind of like the equalizer, with the
mhm,
pandemic. Like I remember initially, like right out of the gate with the pandemic, I read, I follow like an industry newsletter or whatever, and
mhm.
they were saying how a lot of event managers or event planners, like corporate event planners, like they had never worked in the virtual space before. Like something like 85% had never worked in the virtual space before, had no experience with virtual events. So I took that as, all right, that means that
Saw
somebody who
you.
might have 20 years experience, I'm about to be on the same level as you, because now I'm going to learn all these virtual platforms, and I'm going to learn how to create more engaging virtual events. And that's really where my business took off during the pandemic, was because I was one of the few people that people knew who knew how to do virtual events very well.
And you do
Beyond
it
Zoom.
so well. You do it
Yes,
so
thank
well.
you.
And that's something that I'm so proud of you, because as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to take, like, I was fortunate enough to be able to grow this business with my passion, but I also saw a need. And I was able to meet that passion and the need in the middle, and flourish. And for you with events, then you saw the need for, virtual events. You
Hmm.
met it in the middle. And I think that's what a lot of people have to understand. Find that problem and figure out if it's something for you, and
Hmm.
then see how you can take it to the next level. And nobody was owning that virtual space. Everybody was trying to keep up. Honestly, I saw people give up,
Yeah.
and I didn't see
Oh, I've
anybody
seen. Yeah,
try
I saw
to
that
learn.
too.
And
Hmm.
so when we started working on things, and I saw you step in and do I was like, oh, she's killing it. And I don't want to
Yeah.
learn this. I
Yeah.
want to because you do
You're
it.
like, this not my lane.
Do the
Yeah.
graphics, the social media. I got
Yeah.
you. But she owns this space, and I've seen you dominate it. So another
Thank you.
congratulations to you, because you do a phenomenal job.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I received that. And I think this is a lesson to all business owners. It doesn't matter like what level, quote unquote, right? What level you think that you're on. It's really just kind of finding that space where there's an opportunity, and an opportunity that you already have like a skill set or a passion for, and just really leaning into it. And kind of like you said, Kiana, is bossing up, right? Like really showing up for your life and your business, and letting people know what it is that you had to offer, because I was in a very similar place like you, where people would be like, I went to an event, and because I've done so many different things, like there were 4 different people that I haven't seen in however long, because now I'm finally getting back outside,
Mm-hmm.
and they all had different versions of what they thought that I did. One
Isn't it
person asked me if I
hilarious?
was a yoga instructor. I said yoga instructor.
See, it's so funny. Like, I think
Yeah.
you should do an episode on that. Like, what do you think I do? Because it would not be close. Like, I would give $1,000 to those if you can. My mom can't even explain. She just knows that the bills are getting paid, and I'm able to live this life that I'm manifesting and I'm working hard for. But even my friends can't even tell me what I do, and I've been explaining. But you got to speak up and be
It's true.
consistent.
It's true. Yeah, my
Don't
mom my mom says I have a computer job. So
think, like,
she
if you
still
ask
doesn't
my son,
understand what I do.
if you ask my son and my like, he's on the phone, his grandparents are like, what is mom doing? She's on the phone. That's it.
Exactly.
Or she's on a call, and that is that. Like,
That's about it. That's
that's
the
it.
extent.
She's on the phone all day.
Yeah. So I think that that's so important though. Like what you said is like really letting people know what you do and really kind of owning the lane of what it is that you do. And like I said, when you did that pivot, like it was such a like you leaning into your passion and then you pivot for your business, and it was authentic, right? And so I really want to talk about like how can business owners be able to have or find their authentic voice and share that, on social, because I felt like you did that really, really well.
The first thing that I make sure that I let all my clients know when they're trying to find their voice in their industry, and to ignore the whole saturated word when people like to tag that with their industry, is to make sure they break down their pillars. You should have 3 pillars, 3 categories that you want to own. What space do you want to own? What space do you want people to put you in, right? So, you're saying that people thought that you were a yoga instructor. Could have been from one post of you trying to do some self-care and you went to yoga.
And it was legit. Like that was probably the first or second time I've ever did yoga in my life. And I did
You see,
one post showing my yoga post.
you
And she was like, "Oh, I thought
that's
you were
how
a yoga
people
instructor."
take things. And from there, you could have been the yoga expert. They could have been a call and been like, I know Natasha, she's a yoga instructor. And you're like, that's not what I do. And you
Right.
see, but it's the things of like what you put out there. And so I know for myself, when it was time to pivot, I was like, what am I going to teach them? What are the services and products that I want to put out there that I want them to be like, Kiana's the person, because they weren't doing that before. And so when you have your pillars, which could be, for myself, it's, making sure that your brand identity is together. So how does your logo look? How do your colors look? Are you being consistent? And then the next one, that was my educational piece. My first one was education. The second one was being relatable. As a consultant, people choose not always based off of your services and what you can do, but can they connect with you? Are you speaking to them the way that they like to be spoken to? So I had to make sure my personality, my tone was together. So that's when I was being relatable, showing them about motherhood, showing them how I was trying to balance motherhood and being an entrepreneur. So that was now attracting the demographic of those who felt like they weren't able to do it. They didn't have enough time, or they needed more time, or this is a side hustle. I was helping them see that I am an everyday person, but I am helping you do this because I'm accomplishing it myself. And then the third, so I have my educational, then I was being relatable with me being personable of like, my motherhood. But then my third pillar was making sure that I was just promoting what my business does, like just being in my entrepreneur bag. And that is totally different than the motherhood and the entrepreneur, because I'm probably showing you, pictures of me with my son or pictures of us in meetings. But me being an entrepreneur, I'm actually showing you what it takes to be successful. How can you grow your business? I'm not just talking about branding. I'm just getting in all business related tips that I can also help you. So those 3 areas, I would want people to always have a conversation about me in, and, be consistent in it. So like for you, like I said, for that one picture of you being in yoga, if you would have consistently shown that you were going to yoga, that was now going to be a part of your brand. And
Mhm.
people were now going to only think of you not only as whatever else you would post, but she takes care of herself, she's fit, yoga, and now the opportunities come. And that's what happens with the pillars. It allows those opportunities to come because now people know where to put you.
I think that that's so good because it's not, because what I hear you saying is not only about like the content, right? The information,
Right.
like the thing that you're skilled at or the service that you provide, but also just showing that you're a whole person, right? Like a real person. So, you show different facets of you being a mom, and sometimes you'll post on your story, you're like, look, I need a break right now, and so I think that a lot
Yeah.
of moms can relate to your story and your lifestyle. So I think that I love that. I really need to get a little bit better at that because I'll just pop up a flyer on my story. I'll pop up some information and I'm out,
And you remember
Maybe if
in the
I go out and
pandemic,
I
in the
post
beginning,
something.
it was all about aesthetics. It was all about like how, and that's why you saw my colors. And now they're
Yeah.
just like, put it up, just put it up
Yeah.
and figure it out. And social media has changed a lot. So you still need, to educate yourself. And like I said, I'm always trying to educate myself and learn new things. Every month is something, every week is something new. But
Mhm.
definitely just putting yourself in that place to grow and to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. So I hear education, relatability, just kind of showing who you are as a full person. And then the last one is actually like promoting your business.
Mhm.
So it's not just you putting out content that is educating people, but you also got to let people know like these are the services that I have to offer. So when you're ready, if you're
Yeah,
ready, like come on over here.
right. Yeah, it's not just a freebie all the time, but
Yeah.
this
Yeah. Yeah.
freebie is
Yeah.
to move you over here to.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask for the sale. I love that. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about what is a brand identity? Because you were talking about like, that is included within your pillar.
Mhm.
And I recently did a rebrand, and I could just say like how much easier it was for me to not only brand things that I'm doing on social,
Mhm.
but like really kind of hone in and identify like the voice that I want to speak
Right.
through my brand. So I feel like in my limited understanding, that's brand identity. But can you explain that a little bit more so people can understand that?
Definitely. And that's usually like step 2 in my
Okay.
process of working with everyone. My first one is to always make sure they are clear with their vision, their purpose, and where they want their business to go, and then their messaging. But then the messaging falls into the brand identity always. And usually my brand identity and target audience always kind of like click in together. But brand identity has so many layers that I think people underestimate. One of the biggest things that I was like owning on, and I still own on to this day, like brand identity is not only your logo. Brand identity is not just your logo. I think that's
Listen, that's what I thought. I was like, I just need to put my logo
the
up.
simplest form that people want to put out there because it's
Hmm.
easy. But it's not just that. It's your logo, it's your fonts, it's your messaging, your messaging and tone, it's your color palette, it's your tagline, it's all of those. Your identity is who you are, your characteristics. And so the easiest way to think of it is is a person. Think about yourself. What are your characteristics? How do you usually have your hair? How do you usually talk to people and communicate with others? How do you usually, what do you usually do? So those different things in a business are kind of equivalent. How are you coming off? Am I going to recognize you? Are you using the same, I don't know, cursive font every time you put something out? Is your tone always humorous? Is it always serious? Is it always educational, inspirational? Your logo, is it something that I can identify with my eyes closed? Like if you name little elements, I'll remember. Those are the different things that you need to keep in mind with your brand identity. Is not just your logo, it's just how you come off. And especially now in this digital space, that's why fonts are so important. If you go back on my
Hmm.
social media pages, I kept the same font throughout. And if you look at these corporations, they keep the same font. We all know what Coca-Cola looks like. We all know, the font for Disney and for different cars. That's brand identity. How can you identify that brand easily, really and truly?
Yeah, that is so good. So I used to just kind of use the whatever, Canva had as their templates, right? Whatever looks pretty, whatever looks cute. And then once I rebranded and I knew, okay, these are my fonts, these
Yeah,
are my colors, it really gave me a lane to stick within and focus my message in. So I don't have to think about all those other things, right? I really think it alleviates the stress and the pressure of design if you're not necessarily someone who is a designer or have a design background,
right.
you know?
And it sets you apart from competitors. Like, funny enough,
Mhm.
once you put something out that's gold, people want to replicate that. And so it was a time where someone who I felt like had a higher, not felt in numbers, they have a higher reach than I do.
Mhm.
Started seeing that they were using similar colors as I was using.
Mm.
And one of my friends was like, I thought this was you, but it's not. And it made me feel good. I had no issue with that person using my colors because I didn't own those colors. Those weren't my official brand colors. They weren't trademarked or anything like that. But it was great to know that she thought of me first,
Mhm.
and that was a hindrance for that person because you're putting stuff out there that they're thinking that I did because they have been seeing my colors consistently on social media. So that's another beneficial way where you keep it consistent, where people see it, you'll be amazed. When we see red and yellow, we're not thinking of Burger King. So you
Mhm.
want to have that as your business, no matter if you're selling out of your house, you're selling out of your car, you're selling something in a Ziploc bag. Be proud of what you have to be consistent with it.
Yeah, but I think that that's a really good point because to what you just said, there's a lot of times I'll see things scrolling down social media and without even seeing the person's profile, I know exactly who just posted
Mhm.
that? And I think
Yep.
that that's pretty cool. Like without even like just that quick unconscious or
Yeah.
subconscious
Mhm.
association, goes a long way, especially when you start really thinking about how you feel about that person. Because there's somebody that you don't like, all of a sudden you see, you're like, oh God, maybe
Yeah,
I need to unfollow. Here they go again. You know what I mean? Or wow, I know that so and so is about to give some good information. Let me go onto her page and see what's up or what's the latest or whatever the case may
right.
be. So that's a really good point. And I think that that also leads us into talking about like branding for events, right? So in one of the previous episodes, I talked about the different types of events that you can host to grow your business. And one of the things that I talked about is that I really want to start getting out there more because I feel like I've been locked in quarantine,
Mhm.
and also just talking about how we can go to events that are trade or expo related, right? And maybe having a booth or having, something set up so you can engage with
Yeah.
people who might be in your target demographic or who might be your ideal audience. So can you talk a bit about, when you're working with some of your clients, what is that event activation looking like? How can we as business owners, if we want to set up a booth or, participate in an event where our ideal clients might be, what are some things that we need to be thinking about when we're activating at these events?
Great question. I actually did out of town activation my first time out of town with a client. And I was nervous because I've done activations locally, but going
Mhm.
out of town to somewhere where we were new to that market, it was like, wait, if I forget something, I can't just go to my printer. Um,
Yes.
So the common questions, the things that I was checking off my box that I would also recommend to anyone who is participating in a pop-up or, as a vendor, my first question is this going to benefit you? Because no matter if the opportunity is free or paid, are you wasting your time? You can't get that back, right? And then also, is this going to make you feel fulfilled afterwards? And feeling fulfilled doesn't mean that you sold out or you made a sale, but you feel like you're in the right place. And so, am I supposed to be here? And I know that's like a tricky question, but it's not. Look at and don't be afraid to ask these questions before you put that money down or you fill out that application. Who's going to be there? What's the numbers for attendance usually? Who else is going to be there? Because some events don't have integrity where they let you know, hey, it's going to be two or three other people with the same type of product or your
Oh, I
same.
hate that. Mm-hmm.
I know with myself and when I'm working with others, we are very specific with one of each. And if it's two, then it has to be something different in the product line that you're selling. But you need to ask those questions because nothing's like spending all that money to prepare to get there and then you realize that you're competing with five other people. How does that look like? What does that look like? So is it going to be beneficial to you? The second thing is how can you stand out? You need to automatically think that everybody else is going to be better and how can you one up them. So what is your
Ooh,
table?
that's a good point. That's a gem right there.
Like just be
Yeah,
competitive.
it flips a
Competitive.
switch for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
be
nah, I'm not gonna come here
competitive.
looking basic.
I'm not. I'm not. What can I do to be different?
Mhm.
If they don't know me, this is a new group, a new area. What can I do? And we've done things where we've set up the table, we've had different graphics, we had a TV. I have some people who order couches and make a lounge in their area, depending on what food or, I mean, what type of industry they're in. But how can you one up and make a great customer experience? Because it's one thing to get somebody to your tent or to your table, but what happens once they get there? And so the third thing is who is going to be your dream team at this event? We sometimes, we feel like we don't have a team, but you have somebody that that is good at taking, with accounts and making sales. You might have somebody who's good with money. You might have somebody who's good with decorations. You should never go somewhere by yourself, at least not in the beginning part of it. Try to get a team where you can focus on whatever you're good at. I've had uh, moments where sometimes the entrepreneur wants to, own every portion of it and the success rate is low. But like for me, if you
Mhm.
pull me in or, if they pulled you in, you focus on what you know and they can focus on what they need to focus on and you have success. And I think I'm on the fourth one. The fourth tip I would have is to have fun, but also think about what's the impression that you're going to leave, and also how can they stay in communication with you. A lot of times we forget that last part because we've been preparing to get to the location, that we forget about the customer experience afterwards. So do you have your business cards? How can they connect with you? Do they know how to connect with you later? Do you have something to give them? How does your bags look that they can know to come to find you? I've been to places where I bought something and I didn't receive anything else and I forgot who they were because the label messed up or something.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
think about that so you can have that. Take pictures and also take pictures and document that experience for next time.
Yeah, I love that because I used to do a style and beauty expo, and one of the things that we had to start doing trainings for our vendors
Mm-hmm.
because we would realize that a lot of times like either they would just kind of sit back and not engage with the customers that are there or potential customers that were there, and then they'd say, I didn't make a sale. But I'm like, listen, somebody might walk by and they know that you have something to sell and they might not necessarily want that. But if you talk to them and probably educated them on whatever it is that you have to offer, they might be more likely to buy. Or I would see people, they didn't make a sale. And so they started packing up early. And then towards the end of the event, when everybody is done with doing everything they're doing, that's when now they're going around to the tables and, really start stacking up. And I
Mm-hmm.
always used to say, stay until the end. So that's also like a really good tip in addition to what you talked about, Kiana. And the other part that you just talked about that I think is so important is get a way to get people's information so that, or at least give them your information. So that I think is a really important point. Let's talk about how do we even measure success? Let's say, for example, for me, I'm a service provider. So I
Mhm.
go to one of these expos or I go to one of these events. I'm probably not necessarily, or maybe I might. I'm not selling a product. So it's not something that might be immediate. But if I did some of the things that you talked about, like I'm making sure that my area is set up, I'm thinking in my mind, like, what can I do that's different? How can I create an amazing experience for people who might want to experience my brand and what my company has to offer? How are some ways that we can measure the success of everything that we're doing?
I think the best thing to do is set goals prior to getting to that event.
Okay.
You need to set goals on how many emails or phone numbers you want to receive, how many people you want to talk to, how many people you want to get to the table, because you kind of know a ratio of like, almost like when you do virtual events, right? We always say
Hmm.
whatever that number is, 50% or 40% will actually attend, right? So we already put our numbers in of, okay, if we want 50 people to come, we need to aim to like to get 150 people to register or something like that if it's a free event. But setting your goals, because when you go in there blindly, you're kind of just winging it. You're just like, oh, maybe if you and your team, you set a goal for everybody, like, listen, you probably did a reward system. Like, if you are able to close 5 or 6 people today, this is what you get from each seller. This is what you do. Just,
Oh, that's a good idea. I
like
love
setting
that.
goals,
Yeah.
setting, different initiatives for your team. But I think it's just the goals, because if like for you as a service provider,
Hmm.
if you were a vendor, you don't have a physical product like everyone else. But if you were able to get at least 50, if it's a small event, 50 people to sign up for a freebie,
Hmm.
or write down their email, their contact
Yeah.
list, at least it's up to you now to close that deal, to build that relationship with them. Or you
True.
might go, I want to gain 100 new followers from this event, because that's simpler. You know what I mean? To just
Hmm.
have a QR code and have somebody follow you. Now you've grown where you got to keep them as followers. How are
Yeah.
you going
Yeah.
to do that? And so you might not make that sale that day, but you might make that sale that night. You might make that sale in 2 hours after they leave your table. You just have to be, optimistic of that, because like you said, and I'm happy you brought up the point of view of being the host of the event, because as I spoke on, I'm only thinking about as the vendor, but as the host of the event, you want to make sure that everybody is successful. You want to make
Exactly.
sure everybody is good. So just to know that, okay, this is what I'm going in with, and this is what I want to accomplish. I think the goals, the initiative, and just, being optimistic, I think that can help you measure your success, because you're the only one that can set that.
Yeah, I think that that's so good. And you might pay for the booth or you pay to be a part of the event. But if you know that you met your goal, then, like you said, it's kind of up to you now to do what you need to do those follow ups, keep nurturing those contacts for you to eventually make the sale. It might not be something that is right away or immediate, but it's about, well, what is your follow up game like? Like, that's what I hear
Right,
you saying.
right.
What
Like
is your follow
your
up game
measurement
like?
might be what
Yeah,
are my sales after this event in this week?
yeah,
This week
yeah.
after leaving here, did I accomplish? Because this, people, like how you
Yeah.
said, people come to the very end to start
Mhm.
purchasing. People get in their car and purchase, because if it's someone like me who has kids, I might have all intentions to purchase your product and I forget. But what happens when I leave your booth and I get in the car? Hopefully, I'm following you on Instagram. Hopefully, I have a business card or a pamphlet or something that I can go
Mhm.
back to purchase that, because I wasn't able to do it at that moment at that table.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Kiana, for being here with us today. So, the final question before we close out, you could just leave us with one last gem. It could be something that we haven't spoken about today, or something that is action oriented related to life or your business, or anything that you want to leave people with today.
Ooh, a gem that I would like to leave with you all. I think I would like to leave with saying that if you want it, you can get it. And it might sound cliche, but your wants is already there. You just need to like believe in yourself to do it. And even talking to you about even that last questions about measurable, I think if you are realistic with yourself and you are staying in your lane in a sense where you are setting goals that you know that you are going to be able to accomplish, even if it sounds far-fetched, but you know that you can do it, go after it. So I think a double whammy would be like not to compare yourselves to others. Just remember that you are in your own space and you can get done what you want. Don't look on the side of you and anybody in the back. Just do what you do best and just try to go 100% with it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And that's how we're going to close it out, y'all. We're going to close it out like that. I hope you guys learned some new information. If you love this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you caught those gems. Now, let's fly. Bye.
Bye, you guys.